Lords of the Fallen has a few quirks that separate it from other action RPGs, and if you're not familiar with its unique lexicon or mechanics, you might find yourself struggling more than the developers anticipated. So here are the basics you need to know to make it through with your soul intact. Sanguinarix and Healing. The cross thing on your item bar is your Sanguinarix, which heals you when you use it. It refills every time you rest at Vestige. You can upgrade it with Saintly Quintessences when you talk to Pieta at Skyrest Bridge. When you heal in the Umbral, it will heal some normal health and some Withered Health, so be careful when healing in the Umbral. Withered Health. Sometimes you'll see part of your health bar is gray. That gray part is called Withered Health. You turn it into normal health by hitting enemies. The amount of normal health you get from attacking is determined by the amount of damage you do. This can also be bolstered by some specific items in the game that you can find later on. If you get hit, all of your Withered Health goes away. However, there's no time limit for recovery, so you can have Withered Health for 10 minutes, find an enemy, and smack them to get it back. You can also get Withered Health by some other actions, like choosing to go into the Umbral with your lamp or getting hit by attacks that do wither damage. Parry and Blocking. When you block using a shield or a weapon, rather than fully negating damage, it causes you to gain Withered Health. If you press block just before an enemy attacks, you parry them. With a parry, you can gain Withered Health and you can follow up with a Grievous Strike once you clear the little stagger circle above their health bar. You can parry whether you have a shield, one weapon, or dual-wielding weapons. In most cases, though, the game has some pretty generous iframes and dodging is just as viable as blocking or parrying. Vigor. Despite it sounding like the stat that dictates your health or stamina, Vigor is actually the XP you gain when killing enemies, which you use to level up and purchase many items for NPCs. When you die, your Vigor can be in one of two places. It can either be on the ground close to where you died, in which case you can just go and pick it up, or it could be absorbed by an enemy, and you'll have to kill them and pick it up after they drop it. If you want good areas for farming Vigor, we've created some guides for exactly that. Vestige. Vestiges is your not bonfire. Resting at one refills your health, mana, ammo, and Sanguinarix charges as well as respawns enemies. You also use them to upgrade your character and you can teleport between vestiges you've discovered. When you die, you respawn at the last vestige you rested at. There are permanent vestiges around, but if you have a vestige seedling and find an umbral bed of flowers, you can create a new vestige. Vestige seedlings are available for purchase at Mole and can be obtained by defeating mini-bosses, key bosses, and are sometimes dropped as loot from stronger enemies. Axiom. Axiom is the realm you normally occupy, the normal world. If you hit 0 HP in Axiom, you go to Umbral. If you hit 0 HP in Umbral, you die and respawn at the last vestige you rested at in Axiom. Umbral. Umbral is the world of the dead. The environment looks ashen and spooky with lots of bodies and fingers coming out of the scenery. The landscape is similar to that of its Axiom counterpart, but there are often important differences such as puzzles you have to solve in Umbral. If you find a skull thing called an emergence effigy, you can use it to return to Axiom, and unlike resting at a vestige, it won't respawn enemies. However, if you slip into Umbral again, that emergence effigy will not be there. It will return after you die or rest at a vestige. The longer you stay in Umbral, the more dangerous it becomes. The basic enemies that spawn in the Umbral will appear more frequently the longer you stay, and harder enemies will arrive if you continue to linger. NPCs in certain areas exist only in the Umbral, so you can miss them if you don't check. Umbral Lamp. The Umbral Lamp is a starting item that lets you willingly go to Umbral. This is required to solve puzzles or traverse areas blocked off in Axiom. The lamp has an ability called Soul Flay that allows you to pull the soul from an enemy and do damage to it while they're stunned, though this uses a limited resource that's replenished when you rest at a vestige. Soul Flay can also retrieve items and open doors only accessible in Umbral, and this functions without needing to replenish it. It can also Soul Siphon, which you can use to remove Umbral parasites attached to enemies, which weakens their host. You can also use Soul Siphoning to aggro enemies. You can upgrade the Umbral Lamp with Antediluvian Chisels when you talk to Molu at Skyrest Bridge. 3 types of magic. Rogar is fire magic. It's strong against radiant magic but weak against Umbral. If you want to use Rogar spells, you'll want to up your infernal stat. Aureus is radiant magic. It's strong against Rogar but weak against Umbral. If you want to use Aureus spells, you'll want to up your radiant stat. Then there's Umbral magic. It's strong against all elements, but weak to physical. You need a mix of the Radiance and Inferno stats to wield Umbral spells. Co-op. You can engage in jolly cooperation with the help of NPCs or other players online. The aiding party will get social currencies, loot from normal enemies, and a third of the rewards from enemies and bosses. It has crossplay, so you can play with friends regardless of what system they're on. You can join with a friend at any point in the game and remain in co-op with them until you decide to leave. Unlike From Software games which don't have seamless co-op, a friend can join you for your entire adventure in Lords of the Fallen. You can use a password to play with a friend or connect with a random player to help you. You can also join a random player's game to aid them, or if you're feeling bloodthirsty, you can engage in PvP. If the aiding party reaches 0 HP, they'll spectate an Umbral. If the host reaches 0 HP, both them and the aiding party will go to the Umbral. Stats. Radiance is an odd stat. As expected, it's needed to use powerful Aureus spells and it gives you more mana, but it also reveals the description of certain items, though so far it's been all flavor text and nothing useful or mechanical. The rest of the stats are straightforward for genre veterans. Strength is needed for heavy weapons and increases damage on strength scaling weapons. Agility does the same but for agile weapons. Endurance increases stamina and equipment load. Vitality increases HP. Inferno increases mana, and you'll need it for Rogar magic. Plan your build. Weapons have specific stat requirements to use them effectively, so if you plan on using a certain weapon, make sure to look at its stat requirements early so you don't waste your vigor on stats you don't need. Oftentimes, weapons have multiple stats, including magic weapons that might require a combination of strength and inferno to use effectively, for example.
Chosen bearer of the lamp, like you I serve.
Don't worry though, if you don't get your build right the first time, you can purchase a Rebirth Chrysalis from Mole, which you can then give to Pieta to reassign your stats to your liking. Just bear in mind, it's a hefty amount of vigor to do so. Can you accidentally kill NPCs? For the most part, NPCs do not take damage from you or enemies if they're standing around and have the talk option. While you can't kill most NPCs, some can die, so don't be reckless. All starting gear is available to purchase at some point. All of the starting class's weapons and gear are available in the game, though not right away. So if you want to start as a preacher but get the Warwolf sword later, you can. Their items may also be found in the world as hidden items as well. Double check areas and explore. Run through an area after finishing it in the Umbral realm to see places you may have missed. A lot of the game's most important items are often found in Umbral. There's hidden walls, gates, platforms, bridges, and more that you might miss if you don't check the Umbral realm. It's easy to avoid enemies by running and dodge rolling. You don't always have to fight your way back to a boss or when retrieving your lost vigor. As with any Souls game, sometimes just knowing where you're going is half the battle, so don't be afraid to just run through some areas to get your bearings and see what you're up against. Dying is a part of the experience, so after you spend all your vigor, just learn the map. Find the secret areas, and of course, unlock every door you can, which will often open speedier ways to get to that next boss. Don't forget to revisit places you've already been to as well, as oftentimes there's secret doors you can't access until finding certain keys or items. There's a lot more to learn in Lords of the Fallen, but these are the basics that you should know to get started with your playthrough. Lords of the Fallen is a seriously difficult Souls-like, so make sure to check back here on Prima for guides on bosses, where to find upgrade materials, keys, and more.